Hey, Ronnie Dale, fourwheelingwesternaustralia.com, and in this video we're going to compare the ute versus the wagon. This is a highly requested video and I've had emails, people asking me should I get a ute or should I get a wagon, and it's a very hard one to answer. So what I've done is I've compiled a lot of research and I've spoken to my wagon friends and my other ute friends, and I've got a whole list of pros and cons. A lot of general things, but a lot of things that we didn't even think of and we didn't even realize until we sat down and talked about it.
Side fact, the term ute is short for utility, so for my overseas viewers, especially the Americans, a ute is another word for pickup truck. Enjoy.
First topic on the list, camping ready from stock. This is where we're talking from stock. If you buy a ute from stock, yeah, it's kind of camping ready. You can throw anything you want in the tray, but the wagon, it's got sealed doors. So it's kind of more camping ready as far as I would consider it. As far as loads go from straight off the bat, the ute's going to be able to take a lot more because you've got an open tray. The wagon really needs a roof rack. Dust and sealed vehicles. When you start fitting your vehicle out, you're going to find that with the ute, there's so many more dust problems compared to a wagon. Wagons seal way better. A tailgate ute with a tub body on the back doesn't seal too well, at all really, and a tray back doesn't seal at all either. You may put some boxes on the back, but there's still going to get dust in them, trust me. With a wagon, dust proof.
Comfy car, mate.
There. Can't believe how much legroom you got here.
Let's talk about comfort and ride. When it comes to leaf pack versus coil comfort, most wagons will have coil options all round. Now there are some utes that have coil options. Just to name a few, there will be more out there that I'm not naming here, but the G-Wagon ute that's just come out, the MP300 Navara, that has a coil rear. The GU utes have coil rears, and of course the Defender Land Rover 130 has a coil rear. As far as any Toyota dual cab, they all have leaf pack rear, including the Hiluxes. Well, most of your utes are going to have a leaf pack rear to be able to carry heavier loads. In a wagon, you can get up to 8 people in some of them. In a dual cab ute, 5 people, maybe 6 if you modify a bench in the front. But as far as stock form, 5 people, uncomfortable, 8 people, not so comfortable, but 5 people really comfortable in a wagon. Also, a wagon is way more luxurious on the inside. Aircon in the back, you got, on the Saharas, you got fridges in the console, just everything in there. It's just way more comfortable, ride's way more comfortable. In a ute, you get aircon, you get power windows, that's about it. Let's talk about load capacity now. A wagon, in general, mostly can carry less weight than a utility. A utility has a higher GVM, and also with the leaf rear. So if you want to carry heavy loads, you want to do some towing, a ute will do it better than a wagon. Now in terms of towing, a lightweight ute on the back won't tow as well as a wagon, as in stock form. However, if the ute is loaded up, I find, in my opinion, that a ute with a longer wheelbase will tow better than a wagon. But there's one more thing about towing. When you're towing something behind a ute, it doesn't really matter, right? Because most people who set up a ute, they'll have side access. You can access that tray on the back any way you like, in most cases. Of course, if you have a tailgate, it's a bit different. But let's talk about a wagon. When you're towing with a wagon, you've got that annoying drawbar right where you're opening your barn doors or your tailgate on your vehicle. Even the big long door. Sometimes you can't even open it because you've got the trailer on an angle. So that is one thing you need to consider, is if you are going to tow a trailer, do you really want to tow it behind a wagon if you have all your drawers and stuff in there, or would you rather tow it behind a utility? So that is a big one you got to think about. Back on the GVM. Now, as I said, a utility is far better with the GVM, but they are very prone to being overweight. Now, you can overload a wagon as well, but a ute is much easier to overload because you have that big spot on the back. People put big steel canopies, aluminium canopies, fuel tanks underneath, a whole heap of stuff. You will seriously need to think about what you're going to do about it with your GVM upgrade. Otherwise, you'll be overweight really fast. With a wagon, yeah, of course it can happen too, but not as likely. Now we are going to talk about off-roading, the wagon versus the ute. Who will fare better here? Well, I've broken it up into a few different sections. The first section, the angles. Approach angle, ramp over angle, which is in the middle, and departure angle. Approach angles don't really matter, it's all the same. Yeah, it all depends on your bar work as well. Ramp over angle. A ute is generally longer, as in longer wheelbase. So a wagon will have a much better ramp over angle and will have an advantage off-road in that aspect. When it comes to departure angle, the wagon is a big winner here in most cases. Most utilities, the tray hangs way too far over the end. And when it comes to using a high lift jack on the back of your vehicle, not so good with a utility. With a wagon, even if you don't have a rear bar, you can still use your tow assembly, your Reese hitch receiver, and use your high lift. So you can still lift it. On a ute, in most cases, not possible. The next point I would like to make is with a utility, you've only got so many panels you can damage. Then you go to the back of the tray, and most trays are going to be heavy duty steel and up quite high. So they're not really going to contact very often. With a wagon, you've got more panels. You've got a whole back section you've got to worry about. You will probably have to buy a rear bar for your vehicle if you're going to get into the hard stuff. And that is another cost you've got to factor in. So you've got more bar work on your vehicle and you're adding more weight as well. Okay, so you probably just pointed out, well, what about if you have a rear tub on your vehicle? So it's all panels and stuff. Yes, of course, then it is prone as well, but still slightly less prone than a wagon. Also, if you damage your tub, you can replace the tub. It's a bit easier to fix. If you damage the back of your wagon, it's part of the whole structure. So that's another thing to keep in mind. A roof rack is essential for a wagon, as already mentioned at the start of the video. But another thing you have to consider, with a wagon, you're going to load most of your gear on the roof because you can only fit so much in the back. So you are going to be more likely to be top heavy as opposed to a utility. So more top heavy on tough tracks, more chance of tipping over. When you are driving a fully modified vehicle, say these two have all the same mods on them, you have spare wheels on the back on a utility, they are so far back, you are more likely to lift your wheels, and because of your longer wheelbase. In a wagon, because you've got the coil as well, you tend to be a lot more comfortable and you keep more traction by keeping the wheels on the ground. Now, of course, if you've got lockers, who cares? With a utility, if you want to put fuel tanks and all kinds of stuff underneath it, you want to put stuff on top of the tray, you want to change things to the tray, it is fully custom. Everything needs to be customized. So it is going to be more expensive because it's not available. But the positive point of this is you can do anything you want, anything. Anything, any setup, kitchen, bathroom, whatever the hell you want in the back of a utility, you can do. You can even drop down the roof tent. Whereas a wagon, you can't just sink a roof tent into the roof. So you've endless options is basically what I'm trying to say. But with the wagon, you are fixed on options. There are only a certain amount of things you can do in the back. Yes, of course you can do custom work and stuff like that. But that said, it's much cheaper. It's much cheaper with a wagon. So if you are tight on a budget and you get an 80 series wagon, a very capable vehicle, you can fit out a drawer system in there for next to nothing and you're ready to go. It's dust proof, everything. With a utility, it doesn't matter if it's an old utility. If you want a big canopy on the back, you're adding a lot of weight for a start and then you're spending a lot of money to fit it out. Security wise, we're going to do this in 3 stages. The first stage, stock vehicle. Wagon, way better security. You put all your gear in there, you park your car on the street, you press your lock button, off you go. The whole car's locked. With a utility, it's all open in the back. Anyone can just take whatever's in there, and you're always going to have something that's not secured or tied down, right? So security wise, stock, wagon wins. Now we go to the next stage. The wagon is still locked. The utility has some boxes in it. They're bolted down. Most of these boxes, if they're plastic, if the guys want to get in them, it's just a crowbar, they're in them. So still the wagon wins. Now we go to the next stage. You have the full canopy, lockable canopy. You can smash a window on a wagon. You can't smash through a locked canopy door. That's one of my favourite ones, and a lot of reasons why people buy dual cab utility utes, and that is tax deductions. You can easily tax deduct a utility if you have a business that does anything with freighting, construction, anything like that. Way easier to tax deduct a utility than it is to tax deduct a wagon. So that is one of my favourite ones when it comes to ute versus wagon. Three strong points of each vehicle that I'm sure you will agree on. So the wagon, the number 1 point, comfort, security, and it doesn't cost that much to modify to get it ready to head out there and do some touring, off-roading, overlanding, whatever you want to call it. Top 3 points for the utility: customizable, more space, and can handle heavier loads.
Pick a winner!
So what do you guys think? Who wins, the ute or the wagon? Who comes out on top? Comment down below. Now, some people might ask, why have I got a ute and not a wagon? Well, in actual fact, when I was looking at upgrading from my Hilux, I was actually looking at getting an 80 series, and I was going to put some pretty smick motor in it and do a lot of stuff to it. But then they brought out the V8 turbo diesel, dual cab, Land Cruiser, solid axles and all that. That's exactly what I wanted and what I needed. Comment down below who wins. You can subscribe over here, and if you'd like to support the creation of content like this, up there, patreon.com/RonnieDale, and check out this other versus video down here. Cheers, see ya.